our initial question and answer session, so that way students who were not able to attend this information session can in fact follow along with us. So welcome to this information session about the doctoral program in agricultural, environmental, and development economics at OSU. I'm excited to talk to you today about a bunch of things related to the program, including what we look for in applicants, a little bit about our department, and a little bit about the program too, and the curriculum that you would go through should you become a student in our program. So let's get started. Well, it's not letting me go forward apparently. There we go. So a little bit about the university at large, because it is important to know since AEDE is housed at The Ohio State University. We were established in 1870 as what is called a land-grant institution. Land-grant institutions typically started out, at least in the beginning, by offering courses in agricultural science as well as military sciences, but have since definitely expanded their reach in terms of what they study and what experts are housed at that university, as you'll see. We are the third largest public institution in the United States currently, so we tend to kind of float between the largest and the third largest, somewhere in there. One of the things that we think is a benefit of that is that regardless of what you want to study, we have the ability to connect you with experts in that field. There are people studying everything that you can possibly imagine at this university, and it gives you the opportunity to draw from those resources. Another thing that's really great is that because it's a large university and there are lots of students, there are lots of support resources available to you as a student. So everything from faculty support to mental health counseling to the ability to use the workout facilities that are associated with the university. And so students who are going to be coming to Ohio State, we know that you have lives outside of just your academics. So we know academics will take a large part of it, but you do have access to all of these great things through the university that all other students also have. We are located in Columbus, Ohio, which is the capital city of Ohio. It is, I come from New York, so I consider it a fairly mid-sized city. It's nice that it's big enough that there's always something going on, but it is very navigable and able to kind of be gotten around pretty easily by people who are not necessarily used to an urban setting. So I like to think of it as being something that's kind of the best of both worlds. We have nearly 200 graduate programs at the university. Once again, that just means that there are that many professors and faculty members who are looking to connect with talented graduate students who are studying in their field. So we do have students who have their main advisor and most of their dissertation committee in our department, but who pull in expertise from other departments across the university. And that can be a really big positive thing for them if they're looking to get expertise in a really niche area that's not represented within our department currently. It also provides you with the opportunity to network with a large number of alumni. People who come to Ohio State tend to be very excited about the university and excited about helping and connecting with people who also went here. Those shared stories and experiences of being an Ohio State student often connect people from around the world, from different disciplines, and it's nice to be connected to such a strong brand like Ohio State. A little bit about Columbus, and a lot of times people will say, well, Sarah, this isn't about the department, it's not about the program. Why do you bother spending time talking about Columbus? And for PhD students, I always like to point out that when you're deciding on a PhD program, you are choosing a place to be able to spend your entire 5 years while you're here. So even though you might be, having an issue with, or even though you might be engaging in your studies and really excited about that, there is going to be the reality where you're a whole person and you're going to need to do things other than academics once in a while. And I think that's where being in a great city like Columbus can really come in handy. So just some facts and figures, I guess you'd say, for us. We're the 14th largest city in the US. Forbes named us one of the opportunity cities in the United States, the top one, in fact. And we really like that. We think that it's a great place to be, a great place to work, and continue on after your PhD, but it also can just be a great place to connect you with professionals in the field in which you're working while you're here. It's very budget friendly in Columbus. So a lot of students, when they come here, look at the stipend that we offer as a department for our funded students. And they look at the cost of living and they're often pleasantly surprised with how affordable living in Columbus can be. So especially if you look at roommates and things like that, but we do have a good number of students who are budget savvy and able to live by themselves because they want to during their PhD studies, and they still don't feel like they are incredibly financially tight, if that makes sense. We're number 4 on the top cities for happiest workers and number 6 for the best cities in the US for culture. So I'd like to talk a little bit about our department. We like to think of ourselves as offering real economics, solving real problems. So our faculty and our students are very well versed in economic theory, but they also are really passionate about finding real solutions for economic issues that we see across the world. And so our students are going to be looking at not only theory and the underpinnings of it, but they'll be looking at, large data sets and figuring out how to do analysis that allows us to guide policy and ideas and innovation that can help solve these issues that we see in agricultural, environmental, and development economics. We have over 20 world-class faculty. We're ranked number 1 in the nation in terms of minority faculty as per the National Research Council. 50% of our faculty were born outside of the US, and we have one of the highest numbers of female faculty members or percentages, I guess I should say, in the country. So we're really proud of that. We really value having a diverse faculty. We believe that that makes us better, and we believe the same about our student population as well. I just realized that this document or presentation says we have nearly 100 graduate students. Right about now, I would say that that number is probably closer to 75, but that means that our student to faculty ratio is right around 4:1. So when you're coming to our program, you're not necessarily going to be studying, alongside a million people. You're going to be with a cohort of probably about 10 to 12 students, maybe even a little bit less. And that gives you a lot of access to our faculty members. And then when you're thinking about who you want to be your advisor, you're also looking at having an advisor who is not overwhelmingly taxed with advising duties because of how we admit our students. So it's nice that our students don't have the issue of having to go around to, 10 different faculty members in order to find someone who has the time and energy and desire to advise them in their doctoral work. Some things to think about when we talk about why you might want to join AEDE. Our faculty have teaching and research experience in over 30 different countries. So if you are excited about development economics, we have a lot of great people who are doing cool projects. We have a faculty member who looks at soil and nutrient density in that and how that does or does not affect child growth over time. And she's worked with several students who have gone and done field work in that area abroad, looking at setting up relationships with different organizations in order to be able to get the data needed for those projects. So students are getting some really valuable and great experience in that area. Environmental economics, we were named the 8th most influential institution in the world. We have great faculty in our department that are experts in this field and very well known. So it's something worth considering if you're thinking about joining an applied economics department and you're interested in environmental economics, we can offer the breadth that you are most likely looking for. We have people who are just experts in different niches of that field. In regional economics, we have the #1 program in the US. We have great faculty in that area, specifically Mark Partridge and Alina Irwin, who are both very well known and work really extensively with students and closely with students who are looking to move into that field. So now that we've talked a little bit about the department and who you might see and why you might come here, let's talk about the curriculum that you would likely see when you come here. Year 1, our overview is pretty simple. So you're going to be taking some courses in the economics department that are more theory-based. Then you will also take some classes through our department that are more applied economics kind of stuff, econometrics, and then quantitative methods. So it's kind of taking that theory and moving it over into more of the applied side of things. So in that first year, you'll have your microeconomics theory 1A and 1B alongside econometrics 1 for your first semester. And then in your second semester, you move into microeconomics theory 2A and 2B, as well as economics 2. All of those courses are the ones that you'll take in the econ department alongside the economics students in their doctoral program. And we see that our students perform as well, if not better, than the economics department's students. So we're pretty proud of that. Our quality of students coming into the program is very high. We also will have you then in your first semester take your quantitative methods 1 and 2 classes with our department. And then in the spring semester, you'll move into applied econometrics 1 and applied econometrics 2. So that's something that you just want to be thinking of in terms of your progression. After your first year, you will need to pass a microeconomic qualifying exam. We do allow students to pass at both the master's level and the PhD level because we know that we've had students who passed at the master's level who turned out to be awesome PhD students. They ended up being great researchers and they made our department better for being in it. And so for us, we're not really looking for reasons to kick students out of our program after the first year. It doesn't mean that everybody always gets through, but for the most part, our students are successful in that exam and we help prepare them well for it. Our current 2-year overview, or year 2 overview is on the screen currently. It is worth noting that we are likely going to be changing to a new 2nd-year curriculum by the time that you get here. So, or by the time that you are a 2nd year in our program, if you're admitted in this recruitment cycle. So I'll tell you what we're doing now, but I will also tell you where we're going and where we're heading to. So in autumn semester of your 2nd year, you start taking your field courses, which are going to be where you are engaging with the fields that we offer in our department. So currently we have environmental economics, regional economics, and development economics. And each semester there's a class for each of those fields that is offered. So advanced environmental economics then flows into advanced resource economics, advanced regional 1 flows into advanced regional 2, and advanced development 1 flows into advanced development 2. So you would take at least 4 of those courses, but you do have to take currently 6 total courses of fieldwork. 2 of those can be from outside of our department, and 4 of them must be sequences from within our department. Then what we anticipate year 2 looking like is moving to something where students can really build a bit more depth in their field area than what we offer now. There will be required courses, which you'll see outlined in red, as well as what we call frontiers courses, which act kind of like electives that you see in gray. It's also worth noting that under this structure, we will also move to having your coursework really take over years 2 and 3 for these like specific field level work okay? So in autumn semester, you could expect that you would be taking advanced econometrics and seminal readings and writings. The advanced econometrics class is going to just take you further than what your applied econometrics classes would have taught you in your first year. Your seminal readings and writings course is going to be a class that should be exposing you to a wide variety of literature that allows you to start understanding what the current readings are that an economist in this field should know. So when you're an applied economist, you're going to want some basic information, understanding about what some of those very seminal writings, the things that you absolutely need to be familiar with are, and that course is going to provide that for you. It's also going to provide the opportunity for you to start thinking about your second year paper and do a proposal potentially for that as well. Then in your spring semester, you'll see that the required course is an applied welfare course that will be taught by our faculty as well. Everyone will take that regardless of their field. Then students will kind of piece together electives that come from their field that will help them be a better economist in that area. So you'll see on the right-hand side some potential frontiers electives topics that you might see when you come here. We are going to have, regional economics, we'll have development economics, and then we'll also have environmental and agricultural economics courses. Now, they won't be labeled necessarily agricultural economics 1, agricultural economics 2. Instead, they might be something like farm finance, or, climate might be something that we look at. Dr. Kai looks at climate a lot, so that would be a really natural fit for him. Household decision making, Joyce Chen in our department covers that a lot in her current development class, and so it would be a little bit shocking to me if she doesn't choose to do a field in household decision making, as that is kind of her primary research area. So these are just examples of what you might see. We're in the process of getting these courses approved and our program changed, and more than likely once you come to Ohio State, you'll see that that is what you would be required to take. Once again, some of these courses you might take in your third year as well. That doesn't really make a change to our current situation. Most students, though only required to take courses in their second year, do end up taking courses in their third year in order to provide the ability to kind of branch out and see more courses than what they're required. So it's worth noting too that if you look at how many credit hours a student is in per semester here, 18 is the maximum amount that a graduate student can be enrolled in. And so you would have additional time if you wanted to in your second and third year in order to take more coursework from outside of the department as well. These are just kind of your bare minimum. Students will likely be taking somewhere around 5 Frontiers courses over the course of their time in our PhD program. The other required courses that are listed here are a seminar in AEDE economics, which is basically just going to 8 seminars over the course of the year. And you'll do a short write-up on, what you learned from it, what you think they could work on, things like that. Just kind of gets you in the practice of attending professional seminars so that way you have exposure to that, so that when it's your turn to go and present, you have a good sense of what that should look like. The AEDE 80 is supposed to be $89.99. Dissertation research hours are research hours where you're basically meeting with faculty in our department to try to start thinking about who would be a good advisor for you and connecting with those folks early. We find that students who connect with our faculty earlier tend to be more successful in our program. That's just a good thing to think about for any PhD program, whether you come to ours or go somewhere else. It's worth noting too, that after your second year, you will do a second year manuscript, which is a sole authored paper where you are the main person driving your research questions. You write it pretty much independently, and after you've written it, at the end of your spring semester in your second year, it will go and be evaluated by 2 faculty members who are randomly assigned. Those faculty members will read your paper and either give you a pass or a revise and resubmit decision. If you receive a revise and resubmit decision, you will have a month to approximately to rework your paper, take in all of the feedback that the faculty have provided you, and resubmit your paper to be looked at again by your reviewers. At that point, they would both need to give you a passing grade in order for you to continue on in the program. It's worth noting that you do get a substantial amount of feedback from the faculty members, so they will put together essentially what would be considered a referee report if you were submitting to a journal. So this process just is getting you used to and ready for that submission process for journal publication. Since we know a lot of our students would prefer to be published before they leave our program, this kind of helps you get the ball rolling on that. This paper often also becomes the basis for one of the essays that students will write for their dissertation. In our department, as is kind of norm in applied economics, many of our students are working on a 3-essay dissertation series, and that is what they hand in as their dissertation at the end of our program. All of our accepted students are funded for 5 years, which includes a stipend. This year's stipend was $22.68, I believe, off the top of my head. So our students are receiving that per month minus taxes, and they get this funding in 2 different ways. So we offer graduate assistantships to our students who are funded, and then we also have some students who will be on fellowship. The difference between those 2 appointments is that for a fellowship, the advantage for a student on fellowship is that they are not required to perform any duties for their stipend. So they essentially have no responsibilities for the years in which they are funded on fellowship, which gives them a lot of time to meet with faculty, get involved in research projects early, and really start kind of paving the way for their research work. Graduate assistantships can come in 2 different forms. One is a graduate teaching assistantship, and one is a graduate research assistantship. A teaching assistantship would basically be helping our faculty in grading papers for their courses or leading labs for their courses. And sometimes students in graduate teaching assistantships are able to also be the lead instructor in our classrooms. So we work really closely with students so that way students who would like the experience to teach get that opportunity before they leave us. And also it gives them the opportunity to get SEIs. They're called SEIs here at Ohio State, but they're basically evaluations of instruction that you can put in your packets for your application packets when you go on the job market. Graduate research assistantships mean that you're being funded by a specific faculty member to work on a project that they have going on at the moment, and you're helping them kind of move that research forward. That is another way that students in our department get publications, is by working with our faculty who are very knowledgeable about that process and can kind of help them through it in their first and second and third times that they're trying to get something published. All of our funding includes tuition and fees as well as that stipend. So just good to know that regardless of what type of funding you have, you're not going to be running around trying to find funding from someone because your funding ran out after year 2 or 3. And so we really like to provide our students with that financial security so that way your main focus can be on your coursework and your research and getting the training that you really need in those subject areas that you want. Some facts about where our alumni are going. You'll see this map that kind of shows where all of our students have gone. We're still excited about the option of sending someone to Australia so that we can say that we have all continents except Antarctica represented. So please feel free to join our department and get a job in Australia so that we can make that audacious claim. But as you can see, we place students around the world. Once again, we are pretty proud of our placements. We have a lot of students each year who are looking for academic positions who get them. And we're excited about the places they're going and the research that they're doing, and they're representing us well. So we always like to show this to just kind of show what kind of network you would be joining if you end up at our department. Placement since 2014, you can see that more than half of our students are going into academic positions. Most of them are going to be research, but we do have quite a few liberal arts institutions. This really just depends on the year. For instance, last year we had a really large cohort of people exiting our department, and many of them really wanted liberal arts institutions as their place where they landed. And we were really excited that vast majority of them managed to get that type of position. So our students, for the most part, who are deciding between multiple offers and they're getting great positions in different places. We have students who have also gone into government and worked for, you know, some really well-known departments in the government. We have someone who's advising on immigration right now that just got there this past August. But yeah, we're pretty excited about that as well. So now that we've talked about the program, what it can do for you, what you could expect when you get here, let's talk about the admissions process, because that is going to be the next thing that you're going to want to be thinking about when you move on. So our suggested PhD requirements are listed up here in the presentation. We suggest at least an undergraduate GPA of a 3.3 on a 4.0 scale, 3.5 for a graduate GPA. We do also suggest at least a 163 on the quantitative section of the GRE and at least a 150 on the verbal, at least a 3 on the writing. If you have a GRE score and you have less than a 3 on the writing, I would really highly suggest that you retake that test as soon as possible for this round of applications, keeping in mind that we need about 2 or 3 weeks in order to get your GRE scores to us. So just really would recommend that. Documented English proficiency is required by OSU. So on the TOEFL, we suggest 100 or higher on the internet-based test, or an IELTS score of 7. You don't have to have these, but they are helpful in overcoming some of the English course requirements that you would have coming in if you are an international student or someone who hasn't received a degree from an undergrad or graduate institution that is taught in English. Preferred courses that we like to see in your application packet on your transcripts: intermediate microeconomic and macroeconomic theory, differential and integral calculus is really helpful to see, and statistics courses. So a lot of those quantitative courses that you might have taken in undergrad or in grad school, those are going to be some of the things that we want to see in your transcript. It is worth pointing out and reiterating that these are just suggested PhD requirements. It doesn't mean that we've never accepted someone below a 163. We don't do a hard cutoff. We do a holistic review of your application packet. And so because of that, it is good to note that you can still be considered for our program, even if you're missing one of these or something like that. If you are not meeting these suggested requirements on everything, then you may want to take a year to find ways to make your application stronger, because if you're low on all of these things, that would be probably not ideal for your application. Some supporting documentation that's required during the application process as well is your statement of purpose, where we will be looking to you to kind of let us know why you want to become whatever type of economist you're interested in being. why you think AEDE is a good fit for you as a department and why you want to come here. And how does your research interest align with those of our department? So do we have faculty who study what you want to study, or are they really good at a specific type of work? Like, you know, I think of Dr. YY Kai, who's very great in our department at large data set computation kind of stuff. And if that's really important to what you want to research, that might be a good thing to point out in your statement of purpose. We also ask for 3 letters of recommendation. Would highly suggest that at least 2 of those be faculty from your undergrad or your graduate experience. Doesn't really matter to us which, but we like to know how you are as a student in the classroom. How do you react when, you know, things get tough, things like that. So definitely would suggest putting some thought into who you're asking to write those recommendations, reaching out to them early so that they have enough time to write your recommendations before they get the request. And make sure that those recommenders know you very well. It is very obvious to us when someone has a professor who is recommending them who doesn't really remember them or who they didn't have a good relationship with or whatever. So just make sure that that's kind of all lining up for you. We also require a updated CV or resume. So just kind of letting us know what you've been up to for the past however many years before coming into a PhD program. And then we also need your transcripts. A note on unofficial versus official. You can send us unofficial transcripts for the time being, but in order to attend OSU, you will at some point need to send us official transcripts. So if you send your transcripts to us directly from you, that means that they are unofficial. Official for the purposes of being admitted into the program and into OSU means that your institution has to send them directly to our institution. And that is to send them directly to Graduate and Professional Admissions Office at Ohio State University. So don't have your transcripts sent to me or to AEDE. Have them sent to Graduate and Professional Admissions at Ohio State. The application process is fairly, I don't want to say completely intuitive, but it does lead you through the process. You'll start at gpadmissions.osu.edu and you'll be able to search your program. So you'll see that on the screen, there's a little red arrow right by our programs on the page. The nice thing is, because we're agricultural, environmental, and development economics, we're towards the top of the alphabet, and so therefore we kind of like appear right there, which is easier for our students than maybe for some others. You will upload and send supporting documentation through this portal, your academic transcripts. You'll have GRE scores sent to code 1592. That's on our website in case you're ever wondering about that. But you'll have to have your official GRE scores and TOEFL scores sent to if you're an international student. And then you'll upload your resume, CV from there. Once you submit your application, pay your application fee, all of that stuff, then the system will send emails to your recommenders, which you'll give the system their email addresses. And those letters will get sent out to your recommenders and they'll fill them out and they'll be submitted towards your application. It's very important for you to be double checking what your application status is in the system. It should have a checklist of things that you're waiting on and stuff like that, so that way you can kind of keep up to date. I would definitely also recommend just staying in touch with your recommenders and letting them know when you submitted your application so that they know to look out for an email from the OSU system requesting their letter of recommendation. Some items to note before we wrap up. Our application is currently live, as I'm sure most of you know, but the application deadline is December 8th. So we need to receive all of your materials, including your recommendations and things like that, by December 8th. If you want to be sure to be looked at for fellowship opportunities, We have to apply on students' behalf to the graduate school for fellowship funding. And we cannot do that unless we have a complete application. So if you're missing some of the documents in your application, we typically cannot apply on your behalf for those things. So please make sure that you are working, once again, with your recommenders and the GRE, like ETS testing folks and everyone else that you might need to in order to ensure that your application materials are in on time. January to February is when our application review begins in earnest. So on December 8th, we're kind of like looking through all of our applicants to figure out who are some really top folks that we want to offer admission to and that we know we want to submit for fellowship funding. We kind of spend most of December and into early January putting those packets together for the fellowship nominations. And so because of that, we don't have as much time to put into a full application review for all of our students at that point. So we will kind of hold off on application review in its entirety until January to February, and we'll start releasing results as early as we can. Typically that happens around February. By April 15th, you should get a final decision. You also have until April 15th to be able to tell us if you would like to accept an admissions offer that we've given you. So we won't pressure you to make your decision any earlier. We won't hold funding, captive. Only if you reply within a certain amount of time, you have that full amount. I will say, if you know that you're going to accept an offer over hours, say you get that far in the process, it is always really nice, and I would say this for any institution that you know you're not going to go to, it is helpful to let them know as early as possible so that way other students who might get funding or might get admissions decisions can get those as early as possible. That's my one thing to say about that. In case you have any questions after this, AEDE grad services at osu.edu will be a great resource for you. Feel free to reach out to me through that email. It's kind of the main way that I stay in touch with students. You can also email me at my personal email if you see it on the website or whatever. But the AEDE grad services one is where we generally have most of our inquiries about our grad programs coming to. You can also give me a call at 292-7911, though I will warn you that email is definitely the best way to get a hold of me. But thank you so much for attending. If you have any questions, please do reach out. I hope you have a wonderful night, and thank you.